Well, hello there, DevCentral community. Welcome to this episode of You Want Answers. Happy to be here with you today. How is everybody doing? Let me know in the comments. And today we actually have a fantastic show for you. I have a guest who I'll introduce here in a few minutes, which is odd for this show. Normally it's just me and you, but today we have a guest. So maybe this is guest number 2. I think Heidi was my first guest back at the beginning of the year when we talked about the psychometrician. So we are, So we have a guest, and it's going to be awesome. Before we get into that, I have a couple things to talk about. Next week, John will be back with me, and we're going to talk GitOps with Sebastian Maniac, who has been on the show before. Friend of the show. And then May 13th, John will have his solo show, Security Sidebar, and he'll bring Dan Woods back from our Shape Show. And then exciting stuff, May 18th through the 20th, that's Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. You're going to have a daily dose of the DevCentral Connect show with John and I as we kind of talk about our experiences at Virtual RSA, which we both have the all access pass. So we'll be digging into some labs, demos, sessions, keynotes. It'll be great. So usually we do an intro question, and it's John and I kind of bantering back and forth. And my guest will have an opportunity to answer this question as well. But the question is, would you rather? I don't know if you've played Would You Rather with your family members or your kids. Would you rather travel back in time to talk to your ancestors, or would you rather travel forward in time to talk to your descendants? And for me, I think back to my ancestors, and for the most part, the ones I know of anyway, I have pictures and I have stories from family members and all that. So at least there's some level of known. With my descendants, there's complete unknown. And so, it would be, other than my kids, and I do have 2 grandkids. So other than the ones I already have, I don't have to travel forward in time for that. But if I had to travel forward in time to see my descendants, way down the path, I have no knowledge of that, and so I'm intrigued by what would be. So that's the icebreaker for me, myself, and I. And soon to be my guest, who I'll bring on here in a minute. Great guest today. He's an author of at least 2 books that I know of. The TMOS Administration Guide, which I have, right here. For those, back that up so you can actually see it. Whoop, hold it up. Oh, I'll get that right. There we go. As well as Application Delivery Fundamentals, co-author with Steve Eisen on that. And he's a DevCentral MVP. And he's also such a mega fan, obsessed with the master of progressive house EDM himself, Avicii, that he's tattooed the man on his arm. So with that, please welcome Philip Jonsson. All right, Philip, how's it going?
It's going good. How's it going for you?
It is going great. And so, where are you joining us from tonight?
I'm joining you from our office in Malmö, Sweden.
Okay.
So I went to the office, and I found a good space to sit in quiet with good lighting.
Do you live in Malmö?
I actually live outside of Malmö in a small town called Staffanstorp.
Okay.
With my 2 small children and my wife. A 6-year-old son and a 3-year-old daughter.
Okay, cool. I've actually stayed in Malmö before. Years ago when we went to Agility Europe, I brought my family along, and we started in Ireland and ended up in Rome. And while we were at the Copenhagen Agility, we stayed across the very expensive to drive across bridge over in Malmö. And I was supposed to ride the train, but they were on strike, so I had to drive it every day. I think it was like 59 euros each direction. And so I had to do that like for 3 days. And that whole trip, I was just like, that meme where the little girl's throwing money out the window. That whole trip was that. But yeah, Malmö was a great place. There was a little chocolate factory right where we stayed, and so my wife and kids got to go, do the factory tour and eat some Swedish chocolate, and it was really great.
Okay, awesome. So it was kind of central in Malmo in that case. The chocolate factory should be in the central of
Yeah,
Malmo.
yeah, yep, yeah. I wasn't too far from the whatever train station I was supposed to get on.
Okay, yeah.
But
Awesome.
yeah, so real quick, a little bit about yourself. Who is Philip Jonsson, and what makes you tick?
Well, I'm 32 years old, and I live in Staffanstorp, as I said, in the southern parts of Sweden. And I work as a network and security consultant at Orange Cyber Defense, whose purpose is to build a safer digital society, and is one of Europe's leading go-to security providers. And I've been working here since January 2013 and started my career in our security operations center. And my main focus ever since starting at Orange has been to work with F5. But since you work in the SOC, you need to have knowledge about many different vendors and technologies, since you are supporting a wide range of different products. But that has always been in my favor, basically, because it's easier to understand IT from a wider view. And in those cases where F5 collaborates with those vendors, it's easier to connect them together if you have experience from both worlds, so to say. I worked in the SOC for 2 years, and then in 2015 I transitioned over to the professional services, where I'm currently working as a consultant.
Okay, so you got your start with F5 products at the beginning of your Orange experience. That's where you got introduced, and you mentioned other vendors too. I find that, and I guess this is true of software too. So you find something you like and you want to stick with it. So if like for Python, I like Python, but I was in a thread the other day. It's like about what's the best language, and really the best language is the right tool for the job, right? I love Python, but I don't want to fit it into a square hole when it's a round peg, if it's not the best tool for the job. I think the same is true of vendors. If you only want to work with F5 technology, which of course I love that because we get to sell more stuff and we make more money, and that's all great. But as a technologist, you want to have a breadth of experience, because maybe you start to understand the protocols better, the interactivity together, the all of that stuff when you understand how multiple vendors approach those technologies and protocols. And so it's rather than just understanding F5, you understand the underlying protocol with which F5 builds its products.
Exactly. So, and that's been the case when, for instance, when I traveled to Singapore to set up a new data center, I had experience working with PostSecure, the VPN technology, Palo Alto firewalls, and F5. So I basically got the lead to actually configure all of those 3 products at the same time. And then I focused on doing the best with each product, so to say, and deliver a solution that's optimal for the customer.
Yeah, that's awesome. So talk to me about F5 certification. We've had the program for a long time. Are you F5 certified?
Absolutely. I'm currently 401 and 302 DNS certified. I had to do 302 separately since it got moved from 401 over to 402. But I have the ambition on getting the 402 as well. But I need to expand my knowledge and learn more about automation and cloud in order to be able to pass the exam. I did actually write the beta for 402, and surprisingly enough, I got kind of a high score, even though I didn't pass, but I got surprisingly high. And that is just from experience with the hands-on labs from Agility.
Yeah.
So
go do your labs, people. There's a lot of labs out on the F5 DevCentral GitHub that you can either build yourself or work with your sales engineer to spin those things up in UDF.
Absolutely, and that has been my way of learning stuff, both reading, but mostly the hands-on labs, because then you get a really good view of what you need to do in order to configure it and see how it actually works in production, so to say, rather than reading examples from a book.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I wrote I wrote some articles around my experience with certification exams, and I got all the I got the 301s and the 302 done, and I was going to take the 401 back when 302 was part of that, so that I only had to recertify the 401 once I got my was it the APM and the ASM you have to have as well at the time. And so I was going to finish off the 300 so that I only had the one exam to refresh, but then I didn't get it done in time, and so everything expired, and I was like, no. So if you're close, if you're close, don't let that happen. Go ahead and get prepared. Don't be like Jason, and let those things expire. So I know I've written articles to kind of share my experience and how I prepare for tests. How are you preparing for the 402? You talked about labs. What other steps do you take to prepare for a test?
Well, for the 101, it's kind of the experience I got from making the first study guide, which we'll probably go into in more detail later. But when I created that study guide, that basically built the structure and foundation to just go and write the exam. But for the other exams that doesn't have really a combined book or material to just go and read and go take the exam, I basically build a curriculum in Excel where I take the blueprint topics and add them as steps, and then I find an appropriate source, either an article from Ask F5 or manual chapters from Tech Docs, or even the study guides that have been published before from F5, and basically build a curriculum that I'm using as the study material and check off each blueprint. And finally, I take the practice exam to see where I'm at, if there's some topics that I need to focus more on. And if I get a passing score on the practice exam, I simply just book and go write.
Yeah.
But okay. I'm a very structured guy, so I really need to have like an Excel sheet and just check each and every topic, so I know that I've just covered every single topic for the exam.
Yeah. Well, and being structured is helpful as well, because you get full coverage, and but it also sounds like the process of going through and building curriculum is, even though you're starting with just teaching yourself, you end up having the source material to teach others, and we'll make that transition here in just a second. But from a certification standpoint, what has that done for you? Because every vendor, every language, there's all kinds of things that have certifications. How has F5 certification helped you in your journey?
Well, certifications has always been for me to expand my knowledge. And since the F5 certification program is adding knowledge gradually with each certification, it has always worked like a compass to show me where I should focus next. So I first did a 101, and I took the 201, and then I got into each module focusing on specific technology and just gradually added my knowledge. So it's always been a compass. And when you're done taking the certification and you actually pass, you have a receipt that you can show the customers that I actually passed this certification exam, and you have some sort of proof that you are qualified to work with the products that you intend to work with.
Yeah.
But from a company perspective, or in cyber defense, that's on F5 Guardian partner, there are other aspects as well, since F5 expects Orange personnel to be certified on F5 products. So there's a beneficial standpoint from an organization perspective as well.
Yeah, I find too personally that if I'm pursuing a certification, I'll fill in those knowledge gaps that I would otherwise avoid because they're either not interesting to me or I don't touch them operationally, and so it fills in those gaps that I would miss otherwise.
Absolutely.
Daniel Wolf, for the 304, I went above and beyond. Practically configured every scenario in the study guide in the lab and TCP dumped everything. That's awesome. Yeah. Is the 304, is that the APM or the ASM?
I think it's the
APM. ASM is 303. I get the numbers confused, but
yes,
either way, Yeah, the APM and ASM are no joke. They're, I mean, LTM is complex enough, but you go with the additive security APM. Okay, thank you, Daniel. Those are no joke. There's a lot of complexity and a lot of knowledge to gain in those. So kudos to you for going through that.
Awesome work, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to transition to talking about this journey. Not just, so you have the other one, the application delivery fundamentals, but you've also got the TMOS administration, and those are kind of preparing people for the 101 and the 201 exams, correct?
Exactly. Yeah. I got them as well, the first one.
Okay. And I don't know about all you people, but I've got mine signed. So Philip signed mine. So maybe if we get to do agility in person again, he'll sign yours for you.
Absolutely, that would be very fun. We did that in agility back in Boston, 2018, the last in-person agility.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Boston. Yeah. I was trying to remember which one it was at. I wasn't sure if it was Boston or the one before that, but
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, that was good. That was 2018. So yeah, because we didn't have one in 2019, and then because we were restructuring and we were going to have the 2021 down in Orlando, which I was super excited about to go to Star Wars Land down there in Walt Disney World, but that didn't pan out. All right. So anyway, on the book, what inspired you to write the book? Because that's no joke. Between you and Stephen Iveson, I mean, I'm just flipping through. This is like 700 pages of content. So that's not like if it's not like you cranked that out in a weekend.
No, it actually got produced in 3 years actually.
Okay.
But the journey with the first book, it started when my manager sent me to my first F5 course, and that was like a month after starting at Orange. I attended an internal F5 course held by one of the consultants. So that was kind of the first thing that hooked me into F5. And then afterwards, he asked me to go write the 101 exam, which I believe was recently released and a new exam, because the application delivery fundamentals, I believe, and LTM Essentials was the first exam before the 101. So he asked me to go write the 101 exam, and I checked with my colleagues what type of material we had that we could use to study for it, and all we had was a Word document with broken links. So I contacted F5, and all I got back was the blueprint. And since I'm a very structured guy, that didn't really work for me. So I needed to have some sort of PDF file or document with all of the content necessary to pass the exam. So I took the blueprint and created the material myself. So I Googled each topic and found a correct source. Since I had the networking knowledge already, it was kind of easy to find good content and just added it to the Word file and created the first ever F5 study guide. And then I actually went and took the exam, and I got a score around 90%, so almost aced it. And afterwards, I complemented it with additional topics like SAML. Wasn't really in the blueprint, but it appeared on the exam, so I added that as well to give some feedback on that. But that was like 4 months after I started at Orange, so I was still kind of insecure and decided to send it out internally at Orange because I wanted to have reviewed by other experienced colleagues. And after that, my friend and colleague Holger went to the official APM course in Stockholm, and the certified trainer came from F5. And my colleague had the study guide up on his screen, and he caught a glimpse of it. So the F5 trainer got really excited about it and wanted to have a copy of it. So that F5 trainer sent it to his manager, who sent it to his manager, and it started climbing all the way up to the headquarters in Seattle.
Nice.
And apparently it was requested to be the official study guide for the 101 exam, but since the material was not my own, F5 could not do that because of copyright infringement. So, and that is when Ken Salko, who is the senior manager of the certification program, contacted me and asked me if I could write my own book, which was a challenge in itself, because even though I speak English and I write English, but it's a different thing to actually write a book. So I was kind of insecure, but then he paired me up with Steven. So it's actually Ken who paired me up with Steven.
Okay.
And we decided to co-author the one-on-one together. So that is how it all started. And Eric Mitchell also contacted me and got inspired by the first study guide. So that's what actually made him create all of the study guides that he created. And I myself have used to pass the other exams.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it was a really fun beginning.
Okay, that's really cool how that all transpired. I actually didn't know all the details of that story, so that's great. So exams change over time. You know, these books have been out a few years, and you mentioned that even that you know, some of the exams have been updated. What are you doing to you know, keep your books updated?
Right now, we are currently updating the one-on-one book, since, as you say, many years have passed and much has happened. And we kind of focus on one book at a time. So we started creating the one-on-one book shortly after Ken contacted me. And that process took around 1.5, 2 years. So I think we released it late 2014.
Okay.
And immediately after that, I started working on the 201. And I had, at that time, my son was 1 year old, and we did it all in our spare time. So there wasn't really much time to work on it. So
I don't know what you're talking about. I've got a toddler, and I have tons of spare time.
Awesome. So it took 3 years for us to finalize the 201 book. And of course, the 101 has changed a lot, and the content needs to be updated. So when we released the 201 back in 2018, it was actually the day before my daughter was born. So
Oh wow.
I prioritized so that it would be completely finished until she was born, so I could focus on her the first few months before actually starting going back to the 101 and updating it.
Yeah. Okay. And so you're in that process now. You're updating the 101 currently.
Exactly.
Okay.
I've actually added 120 pages, and it's only for the products and solutions part, because we received feedback from the community that we needed to add more content to it, because when you're new to F5, there's so many 3-letter acronyms that you need to learn and understand. And I've experienced that with all of the new colleagues that I get at Orange, that when I start throwing APM, LTM, ASM, and GTM, DNS, all of the different products, they get so confused that they don't know exactly what the product can actually do. So if you go into, not into too much detail, but on some technical level, describe what the products do and how they work, you can bridge the gap between tech and sales. Because as I'm coming from the technical standpoint, the sales pitches I kind of despise, because they don't really give you the full detail of how it actually works. It just gives you like the details of, this is the problem that we solve, but it doesn't actually say how to do it. So
Right.
I'm kind of trying to gap that, so both salesperson and technical people can read a book and fully understand what it's actually about.
Okay. So, you know, before we transition to cover, we only have a few minutes left, but maybe we can answer a couple DevCentral questions, which we normally do on this show. But before we do that, where can they find your books? I know Peter put it in the chat a few minutes ago for Amazon, but where else might they find it?
The best way is actually to go to our website, www.f5books.eu. And on that page, we actually have direct links to each copy. So we have, for the 101, we have it on Amazon, Google Books, and we have it on ISSU, and we have it on as a printed copy at Lulu. And the 201, we have Google Books, ISSU, and we have it as a printed copy as well. So all of the direct links are on that webpage, just to make it easy for everyone to find the copy that they actually want.
Okay, awesome. All right, so you want to jump into this and answer a couple questions here?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
All right, let me pop up here. Why don't we jump first on backups? And this one asked by Blue. I'm creating the backup in WAF from system archives manually. Is there any automated process to generate these backups? What do you think?
From my standpoint, I've always been taught that the official standpoint on scheduled backups, you need to do it with a big IQ. But there is an IAP created by Thomas Schockart. I hope I didn't butcher his name. And that IAP is brilliant. And I know that there's a guy, Daniel, who updated it with new features and details. And that is the core benefit of DevCentral, because the community is so great with providing code sharing and different tools to help each other. And I've used that IAP template for many different purposes. And I would recommend it personally, especially for environments that don't have big IQ and doesn't really need to have a big IQ in their environment. And then use some sort of surveillance and monitoring system to check the off storage location to make sure that the backup is actually being run successfully. But I've used that myself, and we have done with many different customers.
Yeah, back when we managed DevCentral in the cloud many moons ago, I used an IAP to do the backups. That was really the best. However, let's move on to this a little bit, and there's this question about are IAPs deprecated, and this is from MABSJ, and they went to check create a couple IAPs, and there's almost none to choose from, and until I checked the checkbox to see the deprecated ones, and then they popped up. What's going on is the question there. And what do you think?
Well, perhaps we should explain what IAPs are in the first place for the audience that doesn't really know what IAPs are.
Okay.
They're basically templates for predefined configuration options that assist you with setting up specific applications like Microsoft Exchange or Citrix. And I've used IAPs myself, especially for Microsoft Exchange. And the IAP templates have actually been deprecated. And I actually checked the articles about it, and they will only receive critical bug fixes, and they won't go through the IAP verification process starting from version 13.1 and up. But they can still be used, but they have like an end of life date set until last of June.
Yeah.
And instead, the IAP templates have been transitioned over to the new fast templates, which are based on the AS3 declarations to deploy applications and tenants. And AS3 is responsible for creating the big IP system objects. And in order to use the fast templates, you simply need to run DMOS version 13.1 and up, and have AS3 version 3.16 installed. So it's basically transitioned over, and some of the old IAP templates have been transitioned over to the new fast templates.
Yep. Yeah, and that's really, at the end of the day, IAPs are incredibly useful, and they've been around for a long time. But the Tickle implementation of config object management from a templated standpoint, that is deprecated in large part. It's going to be completely deprecated at some point. It doesn't mean it's being removed from the product right away, as you were saying, but it is the message that eventually this platform, this technology is going to go away. So as they get to feature parity eventually with fast templates, I think then that gets removed at some point. And so if you're heavily IAPs today, you definitely want to start looking at fast and going forward. Okay, upgrading. We had a upgrade question. Upgrading from 13.1.3.6 to 15.1.2. Anything specific to that pathway? How do you do that?
Well, even though it's tough to answer a particular jump from version 13 to version 15, since it's all dependent on what type of modules they're running and what type of applications they're running. Do they have a specific I rule? So you're not sure exactly what will happen during that upgrade. I myself usually read through the release notes and check if there are any potential bugs that I might hit when upgrading, and check the list of modules that I have enabled and currently running. And then go through the normal upgrade process of creating a pre and post backup. And I usually also create a quick view before the upgrade. The benefit of using of upgrading is the partitional thinking from F5 that is very easy to roll back if something doesn't work after the upgrade. You simply just reboot into the old partition and you're back to square one without any real impact. So I mean, that's the biggest benefit of using that. Since I've been working with many different vendors, very few actually use this method. So and I'm completely in love with it. It's the best way to handle an upgrade. And there's actually a great kind of newly published article at Ask F5 about how you should upgrade and what you should think of. So I think that is a good starting point.
Yep. This is on DevCentral. They kind of point to it and they talk through the different chapters. One of my favorite things out of that is this knowledge article that actually talks about, this is the version you're upgrading to. This is where you can upgrade directly from. So in their case, they wanted to upgrade from 13.1 to 15, and it looks like that has a direct path. So, they don't have to make a jump on the way in order to make sure all the objects get converted properly. So that solution, again, is K13845. I'll drop that into here. And that one is a big help right there in order to do your paths. Okay, well, we're out of time. We're actually a couple minutes over. Let me take that off screen. And thank you so much for joining me today. It's been awesome. I appreciate your insights and your authoritative speaking on kind of all things 101, 201. And any parting thoughts you have for the community?
Absolutely. I got to say that when I started working on the first 101 study guide, I never really expected anything like this. The feedback we have received from the community is simply amazing, and the sole purpose why I'm doing this. Like last week at Agility, there was one guy from Brazil who saw me in the chat and immediately started writing to me and telling me how I've helped him during his first years learning F5. It's really overwhelming to get the kind of support and appreciation from people you have never met, and have people from F5 calling our 201 book a masterpiece. But one thing to remember is that I've not done this alone. Along the way, I've met great people that have helped me. Like when we did the 201 beta, in order to get feedback from the community, we had a guy from Canada, Scott Campbell. He provided so much feedback, with both grammatical and technical, that I thought our site was being DDoSed. So that was a big help. And then there's all of the people at Orange, like my previous manager, Matthias Oberg, who sent me to my longly awaited Viprion class in Belgium, because I didn't really understand the full concept of Viprion, and I needed a way to lab with it, and we didn't have that type of gear at that time, at least. And then we have the current managers. I have Lisa and Martin, and my unofficial F5 mentors, Thomas Domingo Dahlman and Andreas Jacobi. So, and I'm now currently in the DevCentral MVP crew with so many brilliant people. So I'm extremely fortunate to be on this journey, and I'm truly happy that F5 has given me all the tools and help to progress in my career, so to say. So.
Yeah, the MVP group is great because I learn all the time. Because I'm not in the trenches anymore, so all the discovery I do is kind of on my own. But I'm not solving real problems that all you guys have to solve on a daily basis. So being in the chat and listening to what you guys are talking about is always very helpful to me. You're getting some love out here from Bjorn. Great job, Philip and Daniel. Cool show, really interesting. From the DevCentral ourselves, I'm guessing that is Mr. Pasilva himself posting that. Great job. We appreciate you, Philip.
Thanks,
So
guys.
again, thank you so much for joining me. This was great. We'll have to have you on again in the future when you finish your update, and kudos and appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
All right, that was great. We are a couple minutes over time. Real quick, I just wanted to talk about again next week. We're bringing Sebastian Maniac back to talk about GitOps. The week after that, John has Dan Woods, and then we're going to do RSA daily from the Tuesday. I know the show starts on Monday. We're going to do daily Tuesday through Thursday on RSA week. So. Thank you for joining. If you have not, click subscribe and you'll get your updates on this. Sudhir, you're welcome from Philip as well as myself. And we'll see you out there in the community. Thanks, everyone.